Heroes of Fantasy Football Podcast.
And welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Heroes of Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm your host tonight, Christopher Felice, joined by my good man, Joe Capozzi. Joe, how are we doing tonight?
Playoffs right around the corner. Not doing too bad, making them in every league, but missing out on some of those buys. I never realized how much the Ravens on a bye week would hurt me. And having stock, I literally, and I looked at it today. I have a stock of Derrick Henry on every single team I own now. So that sucked this week. So hopefully next week is better.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, fair. I'm not making them in most leagues, unfortunately. I believe 4 out of the 10 leagues I'll be in playoffs, which is unfortunate. I've had some unfortunate breaks, unlucky scenarios, but it is what it is. It's a skill issue at the end of the day, of course. I'm just bad at fantasy football. I'm sorry, guys. It is what it is. I failed you. We're recording this right now during the Monday Night Football game. So we hope we can provide you guys with some insight with your waivers this week. Coming into, as Joe said, the playoffs here, the first week of playoffs. Lots of fun times. If you made it, good for you. You did it. So keep on trucking. You're going to move forward just fine. Hopefully, don't panic. Don't overthink anything. Just play the guys that got you there, and you'll be all set and good to go. Joe, any comments on that? Any words of wisdom before we head into our waiver picks for this week?
Yeah, no, this is all the buys are done, so you're gonna have your pick of players. So don't have to worry about bye weeks. So this is a very important week for waivers to say, especially if you didn't get that first round bye, to set yourself up for success. So just a couple guys on this list that we're gonna go through that could be league winners. So
I think that's a perfect segue. Let's get right on to it then. First of all, buys. There are no buys. So don't got to worry about that. We're done with all that nonsense here. So for now on, it's everyone's full strength coming in every single week. So we have quarterbacks first up on our waiver wires here. Our first guy we're going to talk about is Aaron Rodgers, rostered in 34% of Yahoo Fantasy Leagues, going up against the Jacksonville Jaguars in his upcoming matchup in Week 15. This past week, he completed 27 attempts for 339 yards and 1 touchdown for 39 attempts. Joe, what are our thoughts on Aaron Rodgers? Is this the time? I mean, he's going up against a bad defense, so maybe you could. I mean, I know we have our question marks around the whole Jets team, but what's the thought here?
So he's coming off a killer game, but I think fantasy owners should be very wary with Aaron Rodgers. You have to remember there was no Breece Hall in that game, which led to a lot more passing attempts than I feel like would normally be on a Jets offense with Breece Hall playing. And next week they're going against the Jaguars with Mac Jones, who has looked very inconsistent. I could see the Jets taking a lead here and running the ball more than throwing it to kind of run that clock out. I would just be very wary that I don't think you're going to get these repeated big numbers that you got this week. And I kind of like some of these other guys on this list that we're going to go through more than Aaron Rodgers. I think this was an inflated game with Breece Hall being out.
Okay, you heard it here first. I'm going to bundle these next 2 guys together because I think it's worth the conversation between one or the other. So on one end, we have Will Levis, rostered in 20% of Yahoo Fantasy Leagues, going up against the Cincinnati Bengals next week. He had a lackluster performance, to honestly put it lightly, completing 19 passes, 168 yards on 32 attempts. Nothing to kind of gloat about here. And then we have the other guy, which is Bryce Young, rostered in 6% of Yahoo Fantasy Leagues, going up against the Dallas Cowboys next week. He completed 19 passes for 191 yards and 1 touchdown on 34 attempts and 1 interception. Now, obviously, the Bengals defense looking pretty hairy in general, as the theme has been all season. But Bryce Young looks to be kind of waking up a bit. Joe, out of these 2, right, you need a quarterback. I don't know why you would be in a situation like this, but let's just say you are, right? Who's the guy you're going for?
100% Bryce Young.
Okay.
Look at last week's matchup. Will Levis was against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Mac Jones is out there throwing picks, giving the ball back to Will Levis consistently, and he still scored under 10 fantasy points with that. So no thank you. Bryce Young on the other hand, played the Eagles, a very good team, and still managed to do decently well for playing a good defense and a good team like that. And then we have next week. I'm all for Bryce Young against the Cowboys with Cooper Rush in there, kind of struggling a little bit. So Bryce Young is 100% my quarterback pickup of the week. If you're in the situation that you need a quarterback.
Alrighty, I'm gonna do some honorable mentions here, just as a not to really go too much into them. We do have Russell Wilson. I did want to give him an honorable mention. He's like rostered in 56% of Yahoo Fantasy leagues, which is the reason why he's not on here right now. I figured that would be too high of a number, but if he is in your waiver wire, I'd just pick him up. Would you say that he's probably a better option than anyone that we had just mentioned on this list here?
100%. If for some reason he's not on a team, pick him up.
Yeah, he 56%. There's like almost a chance he's there. So just check just to make sure. I also have my honorable mentions also include we were going to say you had mentioned before Cooper Rush going up against Carolina next week. Another weak defense if you need that for some reason. And then everyone's favorite fun guy, Derek Carr, just maybe. Who knows? That's my fun honorable mentions, but definitely looking more at Cooper Rush. And
I'm pretty sure, didn't Derek Carr just get hurt?
He did, but I don't think it was like horrible. Oh, he is considered week to week. His hand is fractured. All right, never mind. I recant that statement.
I don't know if they don't know if he's going on IR, but I highly doubt he plays next week, especially where the Saints are at right now.
So in that case, just Russell Wilson and Cooper Rush then are my honorable mentions this week. All right, moving on to our running back section here. Our first guy on the list, we got Keandre Miller, rostered in 4% of Yahoo Fantasy leagues, going against the Washington Commanders next week. He had 10 rushes for 32 yards and 1 touchdown. Now, obviously, there's a lot of kind of nuance to this. I mean, he's finally healthy. We got there. He did it. He's finally here. There's a big guy, Alvin Kamara, in the way of Keandre Miller's production. So is this kind of like, are we even looking at this, Joe? Or are we kind of like, or is this like, whatever, don't risk this. This is like not even a flex play. Like, what's the thought here?
Yeah, this isn't a flex play to me. This is a great dynasty sign, but for redraft and with playoffs around the corner, it's a Kamara show over there. So the next two guys we're going to be talking about are ones I'm much more looking towards picking up for a running back slot.
Gotcha. Yeah, with that being said, I am going to combine these guys together. And of course, because we're combining together, just like how we did in quarterbacks, you're going to have to pick who you prefer over whom. So I got Tank Bigsby. This is the second guy here. Rostered in 46% of Yahoo Fantasy leagues, going against the New York Jets next week. He rushed for 18 times for 55 yards and 1 touchdown, as well as catching one of his 2 targets in the air for 7 yards. And the other guy we got here is Patrick Taylor Jr. You might not know who he is, and that's fine. We're going to talk about him right now. That's kind of the point here, right? He's rostered in 5% of Yahoo Fantasy leagues going up against the LA Rams this upcoming week. He rushed for 7 times for 25 yards and 1 touchdown. Now, Tank Bigsby, we've talked about a lot already. You kind of get the gist. Travis Etienne, shaky at the very least, right? Patrick Taylor Jr., however, with Isaac Orendo currently injured, didn't practice today. Not really sure what that outlook looks like at the current moment in terms of if he's playing or not. This might be kind of the next. I mean, I don't want to say might be. This is the next guy up, according to that depth chart there. So with that in mind, Joe, how are we feeling about Tank Bigsby and Patrick Taylor Jr.? And of course, the ultimate question: who do you prefer over whom?
I like both of them. I think for this week, it all depends on whether Garendo is playing. If Garendo is playing, I much prefer Tank Bigsby because Tank Bigsby is outperformed ETN, and it looks like they rode the hot hand. So I could see that going forward, and he's also going to be involved in that offense. no T-Law. Mac Jones is not looking like the best passer right now, so they're going to lean towards rushing the ball, which means Tanks Bigsby should be the more productive back. But we've seen what 49ers running backs can do. And if Patrick Taylor Jr. is starting this week, I 100% want him in my starting fantasy lineup for playoffs. This could be a league winner. I don't think Garendo is going to miss multiple weeks, if anything. He has a shot to play this week, so this could be a mute point that we're talking about altogether. But if he does miss this week, Patrick Taylor Jr. is my must pickup of the week. He will win you this week. And then hopefully you also have Garendo. And then when Garendo is back to not 100%, but at least healthy enough to play, I'd swap Garendo right back in there.
All right, you heard it here first. So we like Patrick Taylor over Tanks Bigsby if Garendo does not play. That's the logic here?
Correct. But Tanks Bigsby, if he's on the waiver, I'd also put in for him, especially if you're hurting for a running back slot. He's getting heavily involved in that offense. And like I said, with no T-Law, they're looking to run more, and it looks to be the Bigsby show over there right now.
Perfect. I have a follow-up question. Completely speculative. Really fast, need an answer. Travis Etienne. What happens at the offseason for next season? Trade? Does he slot into this number 2 role? What is your prediction? What's your thoughts right now?
That's a good question. Especially him being college. Him and T-Law were played in college. They're close. I don't know, man. I don't know what's happening with that team.
It's weird, isn't it?
That team is. It looks to be Bigsby can fill that role, so I could, and Etienne's 25, which it's not old at all, but in running back years, it's older.
It's getting up there. You're getting up there.
Look at the Giants didn't want to pay Saquon, who is phenomenal, in my opinion, a much better running back. So I could honestly see the Jags walking away from Etienne. So
okay. With that being said, that's our running back portion. We're moving on to probably our most exciting section here, which is the wide receiver area for our waivers this week. So I'm gonna kick us off here with a guy that is probably more than likely picked up in your fantasy league. There's like a good chance, but just in case, because of kind of how this team has played, there's a chance he might have been dropped. He's actually available in a couple of my leagues, which is the only reason why I actually put him on the list. That's Adam Thielen, rostered in 53% of Yahoo Fantasy Leagues. Going up against the Dallas Cowboys next week. He caught 9 of his passes for 102 yards on 11 targets. I mean, the stat line's good. He's been good for the past couple weeks here. What are we thinking here, Joe? Like, if you have the ability to pick up, I know Xavier Legette exists within that whole kind of umbrella of receivers over there on the Panthers. But Adam Thielen specifically, are we in now? Are we back? Are we back to kind of how it was like last year, where Adam Thielen was kind of like a really good player? Like, what's happening right now?
Chris, I've been in since day one.
Oh,
when he was not performing well, and I thought I was a fool. But here, Bryce Young has turned his season around, and Adam Thielen has become the player that I thought he was going to be in the beginning of the season, where he is kind of that go-to guy for Bryce Young. And he, out of all these guys on our list right now, if he's available, highly doubt he's available. But if he's available in your league, he's my my number 1 wide receiver pickup.
Fair. No, very, very fair. Yeah, I have to say, before I go any further, I should have said it before when we talked about Bryce Young, but really, really got to say, I mean, hats off to him. I would take my hat off personally, but I didn't do my hair at all for the show, so that's why I'm wearing a hat right now, so I'm not going to do that. I'll show you off my bowl cut that I have going on right now. But for, truthfully, like Bryce Young, like honestly, fantastic turnaround so far. Keep it up. You know, slow increments. That's all we want. That's all we want. Improvement. Moving on. We have Michael Wilson, rostered in 9% of Yahoo Fantasy Leagues, going up against the New England Patriots. He caught 2 of his 3 targets for 57 yards and 1 touchdown. Now, that is not that exciting at all, what I just said. I think the fact that they're going up against the New England defense does help this case a lot. It's not exactly the best defense in the whole world. what are we thinking here? Is this worth the risky flex play if you need it? Oh, I see him shaking his head. He
No,
hates this. He hates
I,
it.
I own Marvin Harrison Jr. in a couple leagues, and I get scared starting him, and he's the
Oh
number one
wow.
option on that
Oh
team.
wow. It's bad.
The Cardinals is it's like rolling dice. I mean, looking at some of his Michael Wilson's past games, he did well last week. He had 14.2 fantasy points, and then look at week 9. He had one target for 0 catches, and he literally put a goose egg out. So you don't know what you're getting when you're I especially with playoffs here. This is too desperate, too risky. I'm moving on. Some of these other guys on the list.
Okay. All right. There we go. Yeah, I agree. This is definitely too risky. There's definitely like something to say of, oh, you should take a risk on a boomer bust player. This is not a boomer bust player where the bust is like 10 points, right? You know, that's not worth it here. But moving on, I'm going to combine these next two players here because they're on the same team, and I think there really is going to be a choice here based on how you monitor this other player's situation for his injury. I got Matt Collins and Keon Coleman on my list here. So Matt Collins rostered in 1% of Yahoo Fantasy Leagues going up against the Detroit Lions. Last week, he caught 4 of 6 targets for 57 yards and 1 touchdown. And Keon Coleman rostered in 41% of Yahoo Fantasy Leagues, also going up against the Detroit Lions. And he is hopefully coming back from this wrist injury that he's had. So obviously Matt Collins did fine last week. I believe he had like 15 something points in a full PPR, so probably about 12 to 13 points in a half PPR if I had to guess off the top of my head. Very respectable kind of output here. Flex worthy, if I might add. But with Keon Coleman coming back, Amari Cooper also had a good day as well. Joe, are you interested in either of these two guys in terms of starting them in your lineup? And if you are, which one are you preferring?
Not really. They're again very risky plays, especially with this close to the playoffs. With if Keon Coleman comes back, I assume he takes that role back from Matt Collins as the number 3 guy there. I consider. I think Khalil Shakir kind of has established himself as the number 1, followed by Amari Cooper right now, and then Keon Coleman with being out kind of fell down to the number 3. But I think Keon Coleman coming back, I feel like he's like the number 2 guy there. And of course, you also have Dalton Kincaid and Knox there. But yeah, the Bills. Josh Allen's such a great player. The one thing with Josh Allen is he also likes to run the ball in himself a lot. So that makes me very nervous having a wide receiver on the Bills team, is because they can go from 0 to 100. Josh Allen could be slinging it, or he could be running it himself. And then I feel like this week especially, James Cook did abnormally bad.
Mm-hmm.
As
Josh
someone
Allen
who
had like 55 points.
Oh yeah,
week.
which was crazy. But then James Cook had 3.9, which I believe was his lowest all season. I just picked him up in Guillotine and started him, so I highly noticed it. But I also picked up Josh Allen, so it balanced out.
Oh,
okay. But
right.
if you are an unfortunate soul that just has James Cook, this was a weird week where Josh Allen did it himself or threw it in. I don't see this happening all the time. I think James Cook will get back on track, but it's something to monitor for these wide receivers. I think I'd like to go elsewhere with my fab, especially with playoffs around the corner. I think I'm avoiding these guys.
All right. I'm going to talk about this. We have next guy here, Jalen McMillan, rostered in 5% of Yahoo Fantasy Leagues, going up against the LA Chargers. He caught 4 of 7 targets for 59 yards and 2 touchdowns. I'm going to be blunt and honest. Is this going to keep traction? Are we going to keep hold of this, or is this going to be gone in the wind?
No, this is something to monitor for sure.
Yeah? Last
week he 76% snap share. This week 79% snap share. He looks to be the number 2 guy in that offense with Mike Evans, and of course Kate Otton's there, and Sterling Shepard if you want to count him. But I think McMillan has really proven himself, especially this week, and I could see this continuing going forward. This is someone not only highly want in Dynasty if he's for some crazy reason available, but in redraft, I think he's worth the flex play. I think he could repeat that. Baker is looking hot this season, and this is someone I'd take the chance on being in that number 2 role. Baker's throwing it. I'm sold.
And now, last but most certainly not least on our wide receiver list here, we have Matt's favorite player. I only wish he could be here to talk about him. We have the one and the only, the grand Tim Patrick, gracing us with his presence on this list. Rostered in 1% of Yahoo Fantasy Leagues, going up against the Buffalo Bills next week. He caught 6 of 7 targets for 43 yards and 2 touchdowns. Joe, explain to me why you are starting Tim Patrick next week as your wide receiver 1. Go ahead.
I'm not. That's the thing.
So let's get this out of the way, right? We both in agreement here that this is probably most definitely a one and done type of situation?
I don't know if it's one and done, but there's too many mouths to feed on the Lions. You got Amon-Ra, you got Laporta, you got Jameson Williams, and my personal opinion behind all 3 of those guys is Tim Patrick. That's 4 very good receiving options. I would actually
go even farther. I would say that Jahmyr Gibbs is ahead of
Gibbs.
And you know what? David Montgomery catches stuff too apparently now. So there are a lot of mouths to feed on that offense, which is one reason why the Detroit Lions are so good.
Yeah, they're a great team, but it makes you very nervous. It's worth if you're desperate for a player, it's worth a shot because they're balling out on offense, and you're just hoping that you got the guy that's getting the ball that week. So
yeah, I will say. Especially, this is one of those scenarios where usually, obviously, you avoid players going into really tough defenses. But in a scenario like this, with a lot of mouths to feed, going up against the Buffalo Bills, which is going to be a heated game, a lot of bragging rights. These 2 are like heavy favorites here in terms of kind of Super Bowl odds in general. These are like the titans of the game right now facing off against each other. They're a good opportunity for Tim Patrick to kind of actually do stuff and get you a lot of fantasy points. Like that's possible. A sneaky touchdown. This could be worthy of a flex play if you desperately need it, like Joe said. But moving on from that very, very exciting Tim Patrick conversation, we are going to head into our tight ends of the week here. We have honestly a podcast favorite on the first here, Hunter Henry, rostered in 40% of fantasy leagues. I get it. He had a bye week last week. I understand. He's now going up against the Arizona Cardinals, right? That percentage went down, so he's back on the list. I understand. Pick him up now, and just start him. Targets, kind of trump everything else. And he gets them on that offense. Are we in kind of agreement here, Joe? Yeah.
Yeah. I have him in a couple leagues. He's the favorite weapon over there. So
yeah, I'm gonna group these 2 guys together for tight ends because I think there's definitely risk with both of them. So we have Dawson Knox, rostered in 8% of Yahoo Fantasy Leagues, going up against the Detroit Lions. He had 1 target and he caught it for 5 yards. We're going to get to why I think it might be important to pick him up later. We now have Juwan Johnson. He is rostered in 10% of Yahoo Fantasy Leagues, going against the Commanders next week, and he caught 4 of his 5 targets for 50 yards and 1 touchdown. Juwan Johnson, he saw the targets, he got an end zone look. Even without the end zone look, 4 catches for 50 yards is a serviceable week for a tight end. Going back to Dawson Knox, it looks... Actually, I don't know what it looks like. I actually have it here that Kincaid is out for week 15. I do have it here in front of me in the report I'm looking at right now. Kincaid is inactive for Sunday's game against nope, it has just changed on me. Please ignore everything I had just said. Very funny moment. Now it just says day today. My apologies. Literally changed within the hour, guys. I promise. I was looking at it, guys. I swear. Besides the point. Laugh me all you want. It's okay. Besides the point, Kincaid looks like he's going to be out this week. That's going to be my guess. So, Joe, this leaves us with a really, really interesting question. Okay? Which tight end are you going for? And a follow-up, do you prefer either of these two guys over Hunter Henry?
No, Hunter Henry is my number one on this list.
Okay. Okay. Now let's go back to the fight between the Dawson Knox and Juwan Johnson. Who do we like more? Assume Kincaid is out. Assume Kincaid is out. I think that's the only way this is fair.
I think, assuming Kincaid is out, I think I'm lean. If Derek Carr was playing, the answer would be Juwan Johnson. But with Derek Carr's status in the air now, I think I'm leaning more Dawson Knox.
Okay. Heard it here first.
Do I think Jake Heiner is gonna do it for the Saints? No. So.
All right. That's our tight end section here. We're going to wrap it up with defensive streamers. I got 4 matchups to look at. I have the Atlanta Falcons going up against the Las Vegas Raiders. I got the New York Jets going up against the Jacksonville Jaguars, the Baltimore Ravens going up against the New York Giants, and then the Washington Commanders going up against the New Orleans Saints. Joe, out of all those defenses that I have just mentioned, do you have like a personal favorite at all?
Oh, they're all so good. All those teams are so bad.
I know. That's why I chose them.
I think I like the Jets the most because Mac Jones has been he's just been throwing picks, a lot of picks.
Okay.
But they're all so good. The Falcons are good. We have Ritter's in there.
Mm-hmm.
The Giants are just terrible, and I feel like we're tanking on purpose at this point. And the Ravens are one of the best teams in the NFL, so that's a great option.
Surprisingly, don't have a great defensive rating. Actually, surprisingly.
Yeah,
reason why I'm putting them on, I think they're like 20th, I believe, right now in terms of defenses.
The Giants or the Ravens, I think, would be my last out of this list, just because the Giants are going with a quarterback they've been playing, whereas all these other 3 teams are changing this week, outside of the Jaguars, who have been playing Mac Jones but still look terrible. So,
all right, okay, and we have our consensus. With that being said, that's going to be it from us here on the show. We hope that your waiver wires are very, very good to you. We hope you get whoever you want here. If you think we missed somebody, please let us know. Give us a comment. Let us know what we missed. If you disagree with somebody on this list, please let us know. Call us a stupid dumbhead. I don't know, whatever you want to call us. But yeah. Without further ado, please like, share, subscribe, follow whatever platform this is on, however you want to kind of share this. Please, we really do appreciate it. We want to hear from you as well. But yeah, we hope you guys have an excellent rest of your Monday night. And to those of you who have made it to your fantasy football playoffs, congratulations once again, and good luck to all of you. Of course, unless you're facing me. In that case, I hope you lose. Horribly, in fact. But without further ado, have an excellent night, ladies and gentlemen, and we'll see you all very, very soon. So long.